I'm Russ Rivard, managing partner of U.S. Hotel Appraisals. Many of you here in this room I know, and I'm glad to see and put a face to a name if I've only met you on the phone. Many I've met through the years and are good friends with. Many I have never met, and I'm so glad to have you here. I'm very excited about today. I believe that the panelists and the presenters, the speakers are going to just wow our socks off. I think that if, and I was kidding with many today, that if Mike Brophy and I, and I'll mention Mike again in a minute, left the room and went and had a beer somewhere, this thing would go on autopilot. So I'm very excited to have you here. Thank you. Fantastic office. So if anything you take away from here, if there's ever a question about Atlanta or the Southeast, Mike Brophy knows it. And if he doesn't know it for some reason, he'll get you an answer within 24 hours. So please, if nothing else, take that from this meeting, and Mike Brophy's got an office, he rocks and rolls. On to my discussion. I was thinking when we were getting ready for this, what do I want to talk about? I really don't want to talk about appraisal techniques. I think we'd be asleep in the first 15 minutes. And what I wanted to do is, and many in this room that I've gotten the pleasure to know have had some career changes in the last 3 years. And, you know, it's been amazing for me, and I know there's been a frustrating period with lenders and borrowers that are in this room. There's been a difficulty providing and obtaining financing. And my presentation is only meant as a snapshot of those frustrations, because we're going to handle them on the panels. But my point in the next 5 minutes is to really give you a clearer picture of what I think, and these are just real large points, on what has occurred and where we are now and where we're headed in 2012. And we'll, again, the panels will clarify a lot of that.
Russ touched on things on the national level. I thought I'd give you a little insight to what our feelings are for the Atlanta area, and as Atlanta goes, so does a lot of the Southeast market. So we think trends that happen here in Atlanta can be felt throughout the Southeast. And that was really borne out in 2010. In almost every market across the Southeast, you saw demand increase to historic highs. Everybody's like, it's back, we're back. The demand is here. Rates were still very low, and they were still going down in 2010. But as 2010 went along, you know, in Atlanta, it was a very strong convention season in 2011 for downtown market. And a lot of that compression pushed to the outer markets. And the outer markets did very well. I know a lot of you are familiar with Atlanta, but Atlanta is divided into very distinct markets. 2010 was great demand. Rates were going to skyrocket. We're going up 8, 10% some markets with rates. Atlanta's looking at an 8% increase in rates. The corporate negotiated rate at the end of 2010, a lot of the hotel operators were able to get a lot higher rates for their corporate transient demand. So it's real. 2011 started out real strong. I think you all agree. And we were going into it, and then the oil crisis hit. The gas prices went up, the crisis in the Middle East, everybody was on edge.
Unlike many hotel real estate conferences, I'm not here to talk about interest rates or loan structures or REITs. My topic today is based on what I'm hearing from a number of CEOs and COOs in our industry, and quite honestly outside of our industry, about how they're prioritizing their time and what they're putting their time and energy into with their companies. We know everyone has to look at the financial results. I mean, obviously that's going to be a key part of what you do. That's your bread and butter. Let's talk about what's going on with our employees. We are a service-based industry. You've got to depend on your employees. You know, this is something that, and again, it's not all on your shoulders. You have staffs. Do you think that the satisfaction level of employees has gone up over the last 3 years? That they're just glad to have jobs? That they're so thankful that you've employed them? How many of you think that the satisfaction level of employees has gone up? No one raised your hand. Well, you're exactly right. Employee satisfaction has gone down. Now, that has an impact for our industry. You know, you may not be hiring right now, but you will be hiring at some point. You don't want to hire a disengaged employee.
But the just a brief overview of the 504 program. It's an economic development program specifically for fixed assets. So hotels obviously fit in perfectly for our program, and they're actually, over the past 10 years or so, been the #1 use of the program in the state of Georgia. Nationwide, I think they are a top 5 use of the program. So hotels definitely are eligible for the 504 program, and we do tons of 250 CDCs in the country. There are an insane amount in Georgia. There's actually 12, which is a lot more than most states. But there's other CDCs in the room. Earl and Benta from Georgia Certified. We're Georgia Resource Capital. There's one in Augusta, Macon, Valdosta. There's 5 here in Atlanta. So it's a well delivered program here in the state of Georgia. Basic eligibility for a 504 loan is owner occupied. So that's why hotels fit so well in the program, is you really don't have any rentable square footage other than what you're occupying. So you're always considered 100% occupied, so you really always pass that test. Obviously hotels are for-profit, so you fit that test.
So we are talking about hotel financing in today's environment, and let's just start with what borrowers need to be concerned about. You know, they have to look at their entire portfolio as well as the subject property, because lenders are going to want to see their global position. So I'm hoping we'll just start out by talking about proper loan positioning, where you need to be. Who wants to start with that one? Scott?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things that we see today is individuals come to us and, you know, they still are, a lot of people still think that financing is going to be like.
If you have any questions, just raise your hand. I want to talk about PIPs for a second. Teague, I know you brought that up, and I'm wondering, are you finding that they're getting done before transactions happen, so that the properties are more, you know, a better package before they go for sale, or are people trying to sell properties that have PIPs and waiting?
God, it'd be nice if they were done. Fully built, beautiful hotel. No, nobody has any money, so obviously the properties are in need of some capital improvement. And that's the biggest thing. I think franchise companies were understood, we're letting everybody go, and we're not being so tough on brand standards, but times have changed. Franchise companies see that the world's coming back, and they're going to start demanding. Even if you own the asset and aren't selling, they're going to demand that you start to sell. And candidly, that's driving a lot of assets to market. Guys that don't have the money, or have it but don't want to spend it, come to us and say, all right, we want to sell. The reality is that's probably our biggest bid-ask spread issue today, are the PIPs. Whatever the asset is, it's a pretty big number because they want to get their assets.
All right, everybody knows, let me do this. What's happened with Wall Street, that's kind of a trick that's not helping all of us, okay? It hasn't come down to Main Street yet, but we're all hoping it's not. Right now, we're looking through it, just hoping that it's going to not affect us. Probably a silly way of looking at it. But the REITs have closed down shop, and that does trickle down. I can tell you, the time to sell, the window of opportunity for this year for any kind of assets, in my opinion, was the first quarter of this year. Why is that? Let's see. REITs had a ton of money. Everybody kind of had, at least the buyers had developed a ton of money. And at that point, 2012 was still fantastic.
Right.
Super rosy. We're tired of it. Wasn't any fun going through this last downturn. And the family founders, the senior guys said, we actually could lose it all. We thought everything just went up forever. So we're never going to sell, we're never going to sell. So now they're saying, we're kind of tired, we don't want to do this anymore. Second generation is saying, maybe we want to take some risk off the table, we don't really enjoy it either. So what do? Smart guys are coming to me saying, T, we like, and actually they came back in the first quarter and said, T, we want to sell everything. And for some of those guys, we did it right, we sold everything to the REITs, they're taking their money, they're plowing it back into development.
Esteemed panelists, a great combination of expertise and experience. As we've heard, as Steve was alluding to, the transaction activity seems promising, and actually an HBS study showed that the first half of this year had a 34% 34% increase over the first 6 months of 2010 in terms of transactions. Panelists, this sounds very promising, but a major concern that still keeps coming up during regional conferences around the country is the lack of available capital. Can you comment on the challenge that you are seeing in gaining financing? Anyone, I'm just going to throw it out there.
I can start with that. We've been hearing that all day about the challenges. I think it's been summarized earlier by all the panelists and everyone who's landing here is that the only available funds or capital that is out there is the SBA and in the smaller and then higher brands. You know, just at the lodging conference, if you look at everyone who was there was landing, you go and sit with them. The only 3 projects that they will land on is the Hilton, Marriott's, and IHG or maybe Starwood. So if you have anything else, then the options are 5 or 4. The other option is, I think, USDA is also the option that is a viable option that is out there.
This is a bit of a situational question, but certainly is a realistic situation. The asset you just bought has a long-term management and franchise agreement that you want to change. What would you suggest to someone in a situation like this? Paul, you want to jump in
Yes.
first?
I would take the friendly route. I mean, you negotiate with the counterparty on each of those contracts, if it's a management company or franchisor, but ultimately, if that precludes you from restructuring your property, you know, bankruptcy is always an option. It's an executory contract, you can refuse it, and